Hello and welcome into Set Piece. This is a podcast talking everything about Ohio professional soccer that includes Columbus Crew and FC Cincinnati. I'm Justin Thomas. We have on board here Zach McClurg, Lee Lukasevic, and Kyler Washam, all very fantastic analysts that are going to kind of talk us through everything dealing with Columbus and FC Cincinnati. Obviously, a lot to talk about. The Crew have new ownership. They're officially saved. FC Cincinnati making the jump to MLS. So I want to introduce my first person listed here, Zach McClurg. Zach McClurg, you want to go ahead and give a little bit of introduction to yourself, kind of your favorite clubs around the world, your soccer background, anything important to note with that?
Oh, sure. Happy to get my own 15 minutes of fame in here. So I played soccer growing up for most of my life. Probably started when I was about 5 years old, made my way all the way through high school freshman year. And then I decided to call it quits and turn myself into an aquatic athlete. So from there, I was simply a fan. Grew up kind of the secondary fan of Columbus Crew, not totally involved just because I lived all the way up in Toledo area. But now that I'm down in Columbus, I would consider myself a major fan now, mostly through Twitter, and then I make myself known at games. And then other than that, I guess I'm an Arsenal fan, as painful as it is to be sometimes.
It's true.
Yeah, there we go.
Arsenal always one injury away from winning the Premier League every season.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I've learned from that. Now, it's important to note you didn't necessarily call it quits because you and I were playing some intramural soccer for Alpha Sig in college. We made a championship run one year. Way back in the day, back when I could run around the entire game and not feel like I just went through war.
Right.
So there is that aspect. Awesome. We have also Lee Lukasevic.
All right. Well, I'm originally from southwestern Pennsylvania, a little small town called Charleroi. I started playing soccer when I was 4, played all the way up through high school and 1 year of college at Ohio Northern, and then switched on over to a couple years of football, as our neighbors down south call it, the football de Americano. So, fan-wise, I go back to Pittsburgh Riverhounds, little small town team, but Columbus Crew's kind of been my team as of late. Glad we were able to save them. And internationally, I'm a Chelsea fan. I believe you're a Chelsea fan yourself.
I am.
Got a Pulisic on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Big things.
But
we'll focus on the Crew for now.
Yeah, we'll focus on the Crew. Big things happening there, but blue is the color. That is how it is supposed to be. Kyler Washam, we have you on board as well.
I have played soccer my entire life. Played all through high school with you, JT Amos. And moved on to college where I played with the old man over there, Lee Lukasevic, the man who is kind of a big deal, all right?
Okay.
These parts. Huge Columbus Crew fan, and internationally, probably a Liverpool fan, just because they were founded on my birthday, March 15th. So, kind of ran with that one.
That's a solid year.
So once you realize a team's founded on your birthday, you kind of got to go with them.
Yeah, and it's a major one. So how about that? It could have been, like Swindon Town or somebody, but no.
Well, you know what? Swindon Town really is bringing in the heat now. Just kidding. But that is my background, sir.
All right, awesome. You guys know me. Obviously, I've played soccer since like kindergarten. Obviously played there with Kyler there, going through Shawnee. Played with Zach in intramurals with Alpha Sig. So I guess the only way to do this is, Lee, you and I got to get on a team, play together, and Kyler, you and Zach got to get on a team and play together. Maybe we should play a little World Cup or something sometime.
Yeah, pick up soccer. Let's do it.
Yeah, do a little tailgating action at a Crew game or something.
There's going to be a pretty neat little soccer area coming up here in Columbus in the next 3 or 4 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
have some community pitches.
Some community pitches. We'll have a little community center we can all just go out and definitely kick it. So you kind of alluded to our first task here. Let's talk about Columbus, because obviously the big news yesterday was the official press conference, right? That the Columbus Crew has officially been saved. Crew are staying in Columbus, and this was obviously very uncertain for over a year on what was happening with Columbus. And at this point now, things are shifting the right direction. I think it's a win for everybody that's pretty much involved. Obviously, Precourt is done, right? He can go down and do whatever he wants in Austin. MLS sort of fixed up this kind of issue, right? This dumpster fire of a PR campaign where there's all this kind of stuff. And this is really a big win for the fans because this is kind of the first time that a huge fan movement really was successful. This is a situation where you started just with the hashtag Save the Crew, but a lot of people worked behind the scenes. A lot of people worked in front of the scenes, and everyone kind of in Columbus collectively, whether you were well known, such as the Columbus Partnership or the mayor, or if you were just a true fan of the team, really came together and really made this happen. Obviously, it took a lot of kind of international attention. People from other clubs around the league also jumped on board with this. It was a huge win for the fans and a big thing. So overall, what are just your thoughts on this? Like, do you think this is something that could ever happen again? What is with Columbus? What really got this job done? And this is any one of you can jump on this first. Let's start with Zach, because I know Zach was always retweeting and favoriting everything from every possible diehard Crew supporter I know was working with it. Guys such as Morgan Hughes, I think that's the big name on that, but a lot of other people that definitely were very well involved with it.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll jump in on that for a little bit.
All right.
I think Morgan was kind of the front, if you will, really the face of the Crew, Save the Crew movement. Excuse me. He was really out there and in front of everybody at all of the public events and on Twitter, obviously. So he did a great job of keeping himself and keeping everybody motivated and ready to go. But I think overall, this is a movement that is very difficult. It would be very difficult to emulate. There's obviously been. Oops, sorry, I lost you guys there.
Very good.
There's been plenty of movement of teams over the years, as we know, like the Rams to LA and then to St. Louis. And, we have the Chargers, we have Oakland, we have the Seattle Supersonics moving. So all these teams have, been pushed out by owners looking to explore stronger markets. I don't know what it is about Columbus. Columbus is a hardworking town. We're known as we're on the rise, obviously, going to add another 1 million people here before 2050, they say. And it's just something that people gravitated towards and they found a community in, and they continued to fight for what they believed in. And as we're seeing now, the fruits of all of that difficult time. I mean, it was a long 18 months, and for everybody, just going to games was difficult. Thinking that maybe it was, the last season, and there was always that, will we ever see these guys again in the back of your head? So it's great to see the fruits of that labor, I guess.
It really is, because you're absolutely right. Every time you went to a match, you're thinking, is this the end of soccer in Columbus? Something that has been around for so many years, and I remember going since day one, right? Charter member number 1. So, and I remember going to kids as a little game, and when you go to the games, you see like the 1,000 little kids out there running around on that field kicking a soccer ball. That was me one day. So, in the past, I was definitely the smallest one out there, but. It's things like that. I still might be. You're absolutely right. But it's one of those things where it's just so many memories going to games, especially with you guys and my brother. My brother and I have gotten the playoff tickets every single year that they've made the playoffs since Berhalter got there. Obviously, he's gone now. We'll talk about that in a moment, but. Just things like that, just those memories, and it's something you don't expect every season where one day your team just will be gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty wild thing to think about. There was a lot of comparisons to just teams in Europe and comparing the attempt at moving a community asset, not just a team, it's a community asset. And there was talks about how this would never fly in Europe, and if the U.S. ever would like to reach those heights, in terms of quality of soccer. I think this would have shown that we're just not ready for it. So I don't know. I think it could be a positive for everybody involved and just U.S. soccer in general. But yeah, there is that emotional factor of everybody has a history with this team, and like I said, it's a community asset. So it's great that it's going to remain and grow.
Absolutely. And growing is obviously part of this new idea with the new ownership that's taking over. And it sort of came from kind of one of the most unlikely sources, the Cleveland Browns owners, right? The Haslam family. And Kyler, I know that you're a Browns fan. It's almost sort of an interesting take. But then again, you see, obviously, Atlanta United's very successful, and I believe they have the same owners as the Falcons, right? So you see these situations, but how excited are you for the new ownership, Lee? Are you excited about this new ownership taking over? I know you're a Steelers fan, so I guess you're not necessarily full-fledged on board with the Haslam family owning the Browns, but what about the Crew?
I can agree to that. I mean, like you said, I'm a Steelers fan, and I mean, our ownership is like the heart of the city, and that seems to be the case with the new with the Haslams taking over the Crew. Like, they're hometown owners, and that's kind of what we needed. Like, when we had Precourt, it was more of a business. Now it's more of a family atmosphere. So I'm definitely excited for the new ownership. I think it's going to be here for a long time.
I agree with that. A family aspect. Obviously, the Edwards family also part of the new ownership, and Dr. Edwards was there since day one. So how exciting is that for just people that you know have been with the organization, people that are definitely invested in it? What can that attribute to a club like this, especially kind of on a restart here, Kyler? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's pretty huge to have somebody that's been there since day one to be involved with the ownership and have that kind of, I guess, rapport with the team. That's pretty awesome that a guy can, in some ways, kind of like, you know, start from the bottom and then end up, being a partial owner to the team. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to bring, you know, a lot of good mojo, good movement to the team, because I think, a guy that's been around this long with the team and has seen it grow and is that invested is only going to make good moves for the city and for the team in some ways. So, you know, I think it's an awesome thing that Mr. Edwards has done, and I think having his family involved and everything with Columbus for this amount of time, and, you know, I just think it's going to be a huge deal. I think it's going to be awesome for the fans and for the team and for the community also.
Yeah, especially since, from my account, just looking at last year, I think there was only one Anthony Precourt sighting, right? And that was in a road game, I think, at Portland. So obviously, Dr. Edwards has been with the team, so you know he's going to the games. And they even said, I believe, in a statement that we're going to be seeing a lot of them, and that's A-OK in my book. I mean, as much as you look at like comparisons, obviously Jerry Jones, you see Jerry Jones at every single Dallas Cowboys game. Now, obviously, he is very, very, very wealthy. But the fact of the matter is he's a well-known icon for owning the Cowboys because he is at every single game. He's there whether they are winning or losing. Obviously, he's very opinionated on that sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, I think the local ownership, which is what the MLS has been wanting, I think this would definitely be a very, very big step forward for Columbus. Because even with how much the Hunt family did, the Hunt family owns the Kansas City Chiefs. They're from Kansas City, right? So this is, I think, going to be really the first time that it seems like Columbus Crew is actually going to have a serious Ohio-based ownership group, which I think is really, really exciting. And obviously, Zach, you live in Columbus. You know the buzz that's going around, especially when word came out last year that we have works of the Haslam and Edwards families talking with MLS to purchase Columbus Crew. What can you just talk about? What was that buzz like in the city?
You know what? Physically, I think that it rejuvenated some of the fan base. I think there was a lot of people who were hesitant about coming. They may not have been as involved in the social media hemisphere as myself. I was obviously, as you know already, pretty active on Twitter. That was where I got most of my information. But so maybe if it was a little bit biased, but yeah, I mean, overall, it really rejuvenated the fan base, the casual fan. I think every team kind of needs that casual fan base, along with the hardcore supporters, such as myself in the Nordeck. And yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's the team is now owned, and it feels. I'm assuming it feels great, feels good. With Columbus Crew, we're talking about this new ownership. Now, this was something that Kyler, you and I talked about. Now, the market certainly has dwindled for this because FC Cincinnati is now in the MLS, so that's going to kind of change some things. But you and I had talked about, if I remember this conversation properly, several years ago, about trying to make the shift of it. You know, this is before FC Cincinnati was even a club in any league. About really Columbus trying to step up and being Ohio's team, and there was sort of that disconnect. I felt like a lot of people in different regions felt like they weren't quite connected with Columbus Crew, and it was one of those situations where we had talked about maybe even getting buses or something out to, like Toledo, Cincinnati, Cleveland, if there could be that much of an interest with that, where you would have these fans from the kind of furthest reaches of Ohio could have access to a game, because that is one thing that obviously is a little bit of an issue. I mean, the stats don't necessarily lie. Columbus is one of the lowest on attendances. I'm thinking that things are going to step up with this new ownership and this new rejuvenation. But what is there anything that you think the Haslam family, Edwards family can do? Obviously, just them being there and a presence is definitely going to really step up, I think, the energy with Columbus. But how do you get some of these people that are more casual fans to maybe get to more games? You got to do some of the marketing, right?
I would think so, and I think they're going to try to expand their reach, especially with FC Cincinnati coming in to play here. I think they're going to try to expand their reach and try to reach out and grab some of those fans that are, that they normally don't go for, that they don't usually get the advertising out to. And I think they're going to go, for some of the. I think it's going to be a huge, at least play in the attendance market, just moving the stadium to downtown and getting that new stadium down there, because you're going to have a lot of college kids and people that don't usually want to make the trip all the way out to the outskirts of town, which I know it doesn't sound like too far, but
for some people they think it is. They think it is, right?
That's a little ways and a little walk. So I think moving the stadium downtown, obviously that's not going to make a huge dent in the attendance this year, but I think the year after that it's going to be a huge increase in numbers, and you'll start seeing that with the attendance records and all that. But I think what they're going to start doing though is getting way more ads out there and advertisements that are increasing flow into the market, and get hopefully a few more of those fans to come to the games, and especially I think they're going to start reaching more towards that Cleveland area, especially with the Haslams owning the Browns. I think they're going to start working into that Cleveland market a little bit and see if they can reach out that way and get more fans down into the Columbus area for those games.
Yeah, I don't know if there is. At one time, there was a way lower division Cleveland team, like AFC Cleveland. I have no idea if they're still there, but obviously having a professional team down the road in Columbus, obviously with the Haslam family, like you said, being the Browns owners, they're definitely going to want to probably try and reel in that market. Right now, I know there's been talks for years about a Detroit franchise, but at the moment, there is none. So you could try to rope in that Toledo market as well, and really start to try and kind of bring in really all of northern Ohio to try and get them in Columbus, and really try and get something special going on weekends. Obviously, those weekend matches are a lot more better for out of town families that want to make a trip, as opposed to the midweek games where you got stuff going on or whatever. Because summer is still a very busy time for a lot of families, even if the kids are out of school and everything. So I think you're right, though. I agree that this new vision for that downtown stadium, I think is really going to be awesome, especially in the arena district. You already obviously have the Blue Jackets. You have Nationwide Arena there. There's a lot of hotels and everything there. You got a lot of different nightlife scene going on there. You have Huntington Park, right? Yeah. Minor League Baseball, Columbus Clippers. You have Express Live there, so you have concerts and everything. And then you're going to put that stadium not too far away for Columbus Crew, which even with that, if I'm not mistaken, in that vision with that, there is definitely it's not going to just be a soccer stadium, right? There's going to be other things going on there as well, and I think it's just going to be awesome.
Confluent Village.
A confluent village. Is that your own term or?
No, that's the term that they.
Oh, that's the term I was like, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
It's going to be a mixed use residential and commercial area. They're going to try and get people to live there as well.
Okay, I wonder how much that's going to cost. That would be awesome, but at the same time, it might be a little pricey too.
That's the nature of living in Columbus, though. Really, is you're going to spend a little bit more cash than you want to live somewhere desirable like that.
Wow, that's understandable. It's the downtown city. I think it's the same thing down here in Cincinnati. One thing that I hope definitely changes with this new ownership, and I think they've already done a splendid job. I think they're on the right track with everything, getting things really back to where I think that glory with Columbus could be, is overall merchandise. And I know that's sort of a weird thing to say, but I remember this was a couple years ago now, and we all went down to a Crew game, and it was you were there, Zach, myself. Our friends Nick Claypool and Rob Martin. Apparently you basically are camping out there. But so all of us went, and Rob and I were down there early on Saturday, and we went to we went to Tuttle Creek. We went to, I think, Easton, and we went to like another mall. It wasn't Polaris, but a different mall, and we couldn't find any Columbus Crew merchandise anywhere. Not even at any of those like locker room stores where they have like, the throwback jersey from some wide receiver that played at like the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not talking about Larry Fitzgerald. I'm just talking about a random guy you don't even know. I'm like, how do you have their jersey but you don't have someone from Columbus? But it finally was a Dick's Sporting Goods that we went to, and they had like one shelf, and they had, I think, scarves, gloves, hat, and like maybe a mini soccer ball, and that was it. So we had to wait till we got to the Crew Stadium, and obviously those hours at the Crew store are really predominantly only during Crew games. They have some different hours or whatnot as well, but that just shocked me for a professional team, especially because Ohio State is not professional; they're collegiate. Obviously, that's everywhere. You got like Ohio State stores next to each other. Obviously, that's kind of a whole different animal, but to not have anything in like the whole city, I can understand not having it in like Cleveland or Cincinnati, but have nothing in the whole city really surprised me, especially because when FCC was coming around, that got big time. I mean, everybody had stuff. Your Homage had it, your Dick's Sporting Goods had it. They had their store that they opened up downtown, which was open during the day. And then when they moved to MLS, that as soon as they unveiled that new logo, that new merch was everywhere, and that just really blew me away because I was like, you want to talk about how the marketing has been down with Columbus Crew? This is like a prime example because FC Cincinnati moves into MLS and their merchandise is everywhere. And I felt like I had to basically walk into the stadium and almost pull off, Higuain's jersey off his back just to get a Columbus Crew shirt. So that I think is something that hopefully will move forward because I don't know about you guys, but I love a good team shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
So hopefully that steps up. With this new ownership, we also have a new president and a new coach. That all happened very quickly, didn't it? Obviously, Greg Berhalter leaving Columbus for the U.S. men's national team job. So, leaving on good terms. Obviously, he did a lot because after Columbus won the MLS Cup back in 2008, the next season, I believe they won the Supporters' Shield, but were bounced in the playoffs. That was back when the playoffs were all real funky. It was like the number one seed in the East and the West got the 1-2 seed, and then everyone else was just randomly ranked on how they finished. So Columbus ended up losing to Real Salt Lake, who was in the West, And then Real Salt Lake beat the Galaxy, who's also in the West, for the MLS Cup. That's when Landon Donovan missed that penalty, if you remember that.
Yeah.
But that's going way back. But anyway, so after that, though, they kind of have some down years. And then Berhalter came and really kind of rejuvenated the Crew back into kind of contention. And they made the playoffs. Let's see, is there 5 years? 4 out of the 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously, he leaves on a good note, going to the USA. And now we need a new coach, and we got our guy, right? As the Crew have noted, we got our guy, Caleb Porter, the former Portland Timbers head coach, and prior to that, the former Akron Zips head coach. So he took Akron. Akron is a powerhouse. Zach and I went to Bowling Green, and Bowling Green every year, didn't matter how good they were in soccer, they always lost to Akron in the MAC championship because Akron, the way the MAC worked was the top 4 teams all went to the number 1 seeds home, which was always Akron, and then Akron just did not lose a home. So there's that. So Caleb Porter, a beast of a coach at Akron. They won the school's only national championship in soccer, came when I was there. Then he went to Portland. I thought this was a great hire for Portland during that time. Obviously, the evil irony is that Caleb Porter is an Ohio guy. He's coaching Portland, and Portland defeats Columbus Crew in that MLS Cup in Columbus at MAPFRE Stadium, so that one hurt. But now he is here with Columbus, and the president, Tim Bezbatchenko, he was originally at Toronto being their president, where he made those key additions such as Javinko and Josie Altidore and all those guys that really helped Toronto start to become kind of a big name in the league because they were just kind of a so-so club. But then obviously they got back-to-back MLS Cups, and they lost one to Seattle on penalties, and then they ended up beating Seattle the following year. They edged out Columbus too in that Eastern Conference final, and Tim's an Ohio guy too from Westerville, so that one kind of hurts too. But now we got both our guys here at president and coach. We'll start with you, Zach. What are you thinking? What are you seeing? What's kind of your thoughts on these new guys here for Columbus?
I think these are both great hires. I've been a big fan of Caleb Porter even while he was at Portland. Just in their style of play is super exciting. It's great. I think it's very close to Greg's style. Greg played a real possession-based, try and find the openings and create the openings through playing out of the back. And I think Caleb does a very similar play style of that. I like his use of midfielders. I think he plays with a strong, creative midfielder very well. So I'm excited about that hire, and obviously very excited about Tim Bezbatchenko as well. Being an Ohio guy, I think he even said in their presser the other day that he's grown up watching the Crew. He's been a Crew fan for the last 23 years. So that just adds to that family identity that the new ownership is creating. So I think they're both great hires, and I think they're very well selected.
Kyler?
You know what? I love, like, as Zach said, that they're both local guys. I love that they grew up loving the Crew and cheering for the Crew and going to Crew games. And I think they even said in the presser the other day that Bezbatchenko actually was the first season ticket holder. Like, he actually had season tickets for the first season of the Crew, which is crazy to think. That guy now is our president. So that's kind of pretty awesome to see. But I'm also pretty excited. I mean, Porter's won everywhere he's gone, and I'm hoping that he can carry that over into the Crew. And I'm really excited to see what he does with the team and see if who they bring in and exactly what type of tactics he's going to bring to the table. But I think no matter what, I think he brings a winning attitude to the Crew. And after Greg Berhalter, and as great as he was, I think this is going to be just as good, if not better.
Lee?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. But, I mean, what Zach and Kyler said is right on. I mean, both of them local. Both of them have love for the team. Little fun fact on Coach Porter. Apparently, in the 2011 MLS draft, 5 of the top 8 picks came from his Akron Zips. So, I mean, he developed some studs.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm sure he's going to be doing some hardcore recruiting and development on the guys that are already there. So, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, we're set. And then ownership or president-wise with Bezbatchenko, I mean, like Kyler said, he's a local guy, grew up a Crew fan, and I mean, he's going to do whatever's best for his team. So I think we're set.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with all those. The fact that these are local guys, you know that they are going to work to make Columbus a championship caliber team. We're right there at the cusp, right? We had the one MLS Cup final. We had the Eastern Conference final, and we made the playoff. I mean, only one real lackluster year. But I'm going to attribute that to the lousy jerseys that we got that season. I swear every year, every game that we wore those 4 Columbus kits, those nasty yellow, white, blue, like baby blue, what I'm talking about. Every time we wore those jerseys, I swear we lost. And every time we wore the black jerseys, I swear we got a result. So I'm sticking to that for that year. But overall, a lot of good work that Greg Berhalter has done, and Caleb Porter even said that in the press conference that foundation has been laid, and he wants to continue to build on top of that. And I think these guys are definitely going to go to work trying to figure out what is best for Columbus to win their second MLS Cup. Now, it's going to be some changes coming up, right? Because, as we've already kind of known, Zach Steffen, he's going to be here for like the first half of the year, right? Well, most of the season, I suppose, until he gets that call back from Manchester City, that big transfer from Columbus to Manchester City. So Zach Steffen is going to be gone towards the end of the season. Will Trapp, it looks like, might be leaving as well. There's a lot of interest in him. And then obviously, as I believe this is Higuain's final season as well, at least on a contract base. So what are your thoughts on just obviously Steffen leaving will be a huge blow, especially when it comes down that final stretch towards the end of the season?
Yeah, I hate seeing Steffen leave. Honestly, that's a huge loss, as you all know. But I think we're going to land on our feet here. And obviously, if he's leaving and you get that money back in that he's leaving for, because obviously he's not leaving for just a few pennies and nickels. He's leaving for a good chunk of change. So you're going to have some money to spend. That's when I'm kind of interested to see how they handle that and what they spend their money on and who they get back to kind of, re-up the team. And obviously Will Trapp's the leader, so I really would hate seeing him go. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does leave. But again, I'm really excited to see who they end up bringing back in and who fits into the system and see what kind of, I'm hoping, young talent we can bring in and really kick some butt with.
I'm talking big name star. I want the big name star, put some butts in the seats.
Well, hopefully with the pledge, there will already be butts in the seats. I know, Zach, you have stepped up on the pledge you were talking about prior to the show here, that you might as well, right? You're going to be there anyways. You might as well step in on the pledge, get those season tickets. I remember this was the playoff game against Red Bulls. My brother and I, we went and we ended up standing on that concourse just right there at the railing to watch the game. And then Zach came over afterwards, and I got chewed out by Zach for not actually sitting in the seat because it made it look like we weren't there. I was like, we were there. I was holding my scarf up when we scored and everything, but I guess it wasn't good enough for Mr. McClurg here. He's going to be the one.
I was talking to someone just about that today, about how this guy was telling me, he's like, I like just staying in the concourse. And I was like, man, you got to sit in the seat. Like, you've seen Kai Stadium. When everyone sits in their seats, that place is rocking. It's like, that's how we need the new stadium to be, is we got to get seats and get butts in those seats, and it's going to look amazing when they put it on ESPN.
Once the game starts, though, you got to stand up. There's no sitting.
Oh, yeah, you got to stand up. Your butt doesn't have to be in the seat.
Your butt has to be in the air above the seat you purchased.
I want you standing near the bench.
All right, there you have it, folks. If you're going to a Columbus Crew game, you better be there. You better be standing, and your butt better be a few inches above the seat that you bought. No time for concessions or anything. Do that pregame or halftime. But Mr. McClurg here, he's going to find you, and he's going to chew you out and say you better get back to your seat.
I'm going to make sure that new stadium gets designed without a concourse.
Well, how are you going to get people to go around? That's the real question. I'll tell you what.
It's not going to be open to the field.
Just straight open to the field. You know what? We went to my family and I went to the Cotton Bowl last year when Ohio State put a beating on USC defensively, and that is the weird. There's like the stadium, the concourse is on like multiple levels. If you want to go from one side to the other, it's easier to literally just chance outrunning a cop to get across the field. The concourse is like you got to go on the concourse and you got to go up like 8 flights of stairs, like 6 stories higher, and then walk on the back. It's ridiculous. But it sounds like that's the kind of sort of concourse in quotations that Zach wants here.
I just don't think that you see those kind of things in European stadiums. I mean, you look at some of the stadiums that they've cited as part of their design, and they're really like the 4 sides full kind of stadiums,
Okay. Now, here's a question. I can't remember if there's a certain number that's been thrown out there yet, but what is a good number? Because I think Maffrey Stadium holds 24,000 roughly, maybe a little less.
Around 24, I think.
Around 24.
26 for USA games.
Okay, because when Zach and I know about that, we stood on those bleachers. I thought we were going to collapse. So obviously that's how they get a few extra seats in there. But obviously, do you think that's a good number going forward, especially with the pledges and everything, or do you think they should lower a little with kind of that new stadium?
I think the goal for the new one is 20,000.
20,000? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously,
I think it's a good number. I mean, it creates enough of a demand. There's enough of a demand for that much, I think, and it leaves less of a chance, I think, to have empty seats. I mean, we're obviously not going to fill up a 100,000 seat stadium like the Horseshoe just north.
Right.
Your stadium's going to be it's not going to happen. So I think a 20,000 seat stadium, you're going to get loud still. You're going to have big stands, big crowds. You're going to have enough people to get downtown, but you're not going to flood the area. And yeah, I think 20,000 is a great number.
I can agree with that, and I think obviously you're the architect on here, but I think personally it would be awesome to get, and I know there's already been designs out there, and those look awesome as well. This is not a critique on the designs; the designs look great. But even if you watch European soccer, obviously Premier League you can watch every weekend. They got multiple games on NBC Sports Network, and sometimes normally they're always covering the big teams like Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Man United, but they do play the games at the smaller clubs. And just the other day, I think it was, I want to say it might have been Liverpool and Brighton and Hove Albion, but that was a cool little stadium. Cardiff City has a cool little stadium. I would almost be 100% down with if we kind of deviated from the American type of design and even try to make a crossbreed between like an American and just a smaller, because those probably hold roughly about 20,000, 24,000.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I don't know what you guys think. You think that would be cool to have a little mixture from, an ancient European club? I mean, because in Europe, soccer's been around as long as baseball has been around here, and you see those. Well, you know what I mean. I mean, sure, it's only like 100 and some odd years old, but that's like ancient compared. I mean, you think about like the Reds.
Jurassic period.
The Jurassic period. That's right. There was there's a Stegosaurus just chilling outside when you went to the games there when the stadium opened. But that's just my thought. What are your guys' thought on that? Do you think that would be an interesting design, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to have a stadium design like that. I mean, I'm cool with the stadium designs that are they're coming up with now. I like each of them. There's not a bad one, but I actually I like the idea that Zach was saying without a concourse. I actually like that idea. So if we
you're one of those people.
Get that done.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I personally am a fan of just the modern designs, like each stadium trying to one up the next one with technology or just the modern look of it. But like when it comes to the seating, I'm a big fan of just the full bowl. Similar to what the horseshoe is, except like finish off the shoe and full circles.
It's like the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. No concourse. Get that out of here.
Okay, there you have it. These guys are on board with no concourse. Obviously, I like to stand on the concourse. I got to continuously move to make sure Zach doesn't find me.
Yeah, you're more of a Cincinnati fan anyway. So,
I'm like
stand in the Nordex. You can stand there.
I have stood in the Nordeck, and that gets
in that south stands.
That gets wild. Well, the Nordeck was all sold out for that playoff game when we got on. So that it is what it is. But I've been in the Nordeck before, and I can attribute it does get wild. I went to a game with Lee and Kyler. Our other friend Chris was there, and whoo. They just gave me a flag, so I was just waving this flag and everything. Never
give Justin Thomas a flag.
That's true. I don't think anyone behind me could see the entire match.
I think they were actually getting pretty mad.
All right. Well, if those folks ever listen to this podcast, I apologize. I got too excited, too rambunctious, waving that flag. So that's my bad. Let's talk real quick here to wrap up our crew talk here with this. What is a player that you're excited about? And we can even go a little bit more in depth in this in our next podcast. But just off the top of your head, what is a player that you are excited about with Columbus coming this season?
I'm going to jump in and say Higuain. I mean, you said it might be his last season.
Mm-hmm.
It could be his last season playing soccer ever. So see if he steps up and just plays all out, finishes on a high note.
We got to get that guy a cup.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm personally excited about this new Brazilian signing that we're rumored to be getting. I know he's only referred to as Robinho.
As they all are, aren't they?
We got about 3 or 4 names. But yeah, he seems like he's a real dynamic winger, and I think that was one of our weakest points through last year was our wing play. We had, at least in my opinion, a little bit too much overlap from players like Harrison Offal on the outside and Milton Valenzuela on the other. They tend to overlap a little bit too much just because I think that our wingers were a little bit less dynamic than what Greg wanted them to be. So yeah, I'm excited for this new signing. I think he's going to play well with Caleb Porter's tactics.
I agree with that. You kind of mentioned both of my guys. I know I cheated here. I went with 2 guys, but they're the same position, just on either side. But Harrison Offal and Valenzuela, I think both of those guys, I'm excited to see. I mean, Offal's been with the crew for a minute now, and he's just. I mean, he's a wild card because he's a wild card in a good way because sometimes he gets up there in that overlap and he's just like, I'm just going to take a shot, right? And people aren't expecting him to take a shot. And it's an absolute rocket. But then there's the times like in that 2 years ago against New York City FC in the playoffs where he just walked it in, right? So he is a really good, exciting player that I think a lot of people always forget about on the opposite team about what kind of threats he has. And Valenzuela, I think, really stepped up last year. Obviously, he's just 20 years old. So I think going forward, he's definitely going to be an exciting player to watch.
Yeah. He was definitely the dude that I was thinking about there. He's amazing to watch, like Zach said. The way he can move with the ball and overlap, and he's just a threat both on defense and on offense. So that'd be the dude I'm most excited to see this year.
All right, that's going to wrap up our Columbus crew talk for this part of the segment. In a moment, we'll come back. We'll talk about FC Cincinnati. Welcome back to Set Piece. I'm Justin Thomas. We got Kyler Washam and Lee Lukasevic here on the line. We're going to talk about FC Cincinnati. Obviously, if you were tuning in here, we had a rather long discussion about Columbus Crew, but there was a lot to talk about with new ownership and whatnot. FCC is on kind of the flip side. They are very relatively new. Columbus Crew has been charter member number 1. FC Cincinnati has only been around for, this is going to be their 3rd season. That's hard to believe. Their 3rd season, and they've been promoted to Major League Soccer. They got their starts in the United Soccer League or the USL. So FC Cincinnati is now jumping into the MLS, and they've made kind of a lot of big moves so far. If you've been listening to my earlier podcast with the Wing Lions, you know that they've been making a lot of signings. They brought some folks back from the original team that was there last year. They have parted ways with some folks from last year as well, but they made a lot of big signings. Their first big signing was Fernando Adi, who came away from Portland Timbers. He did win the MLS Cup during his time with Portland, so that was kind of a big name. They've also did very well, in my opinion, with the MLS expansion draft. They got some good players with that as well, such as Darren Maddox was kind of a big one with that. They also went out and got I can't even say his first name, so we're just going to call him by his nickname here, Titi, who is probably going to be the new goalkeeper. He's from Poland. He's played in Europe. So collectively, this is kind of a team that's going to have obviously a lot to go together, because you got some of the original guys there from last year. You got some of these big signings from elsewhere, and then you also have guys that have been playing in the MLS that are coming in. So overall, we'll start with Kyler here. What are your thoughts? Just I know you guys are further north, right, and not necessarily here in Cincinnati, but I'm sure you've heard about this orange and blue buzz that's going on down here in the Queen City.
Yeah, you know what? It's that kind of a breath of fresh air too. Somewhat to see a team that young have that much success and that much backing with their fans and supporters. They seem like they're all in. Always doing their best to fill up Nippert Stadium all the time, which is nuts. But with all the moves they're making and everything, it'll be kind of interesting to see how that team will mesh. Come the games. Because, like you said, they're gathering from a lot of different sources, and you're going to have a lot of different people coming into a new town. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they do there. And you got a lot of turnaround, like you said, losing a few guys and gaining quite a few. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they do this year. And I'm interested to see how they can compete with the teams that have been around a little longer in the MLS.
Lee, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm interested too. I mean, who is it? Atlanta. It's only their 2nd year, and they won the Cup. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to see if Cincinnati can pull off something like that. And I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but that time we went to Dave & Buster's, and I cashed in my tickets for that blue and orange soccer ball, thinking that I might have to jump ship. But yeah, I mean, at that time I was a little bit excited, but actually I'm still excited. Definitely a Crew fan. And but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm sure there'll be a in-state rivalry between the two teams. That'll be exciting to see if what kind of traveling each side will do. Might have like a half and half stadium, a lot of boos and cheers, and maybe some fights. That'd be neat.
We here at Set Piece do not promote violence.
Of course not.
Only off stadium grounds. No, just kidding. But no, yeah, this is
hooligans. Let's get some.
Yeah, the hooliganism. Lee and Kyler are trying to get hooliganism started here in the States. But obviously that is attributed for. I'm not saying hooliganism is something we need to be having, but the fact of the matter that Columbus's rival technically was Toronto FC, and I don't know about you guys, but I mean, there's really. I mean, sure, we share Lake Erie, but like, what kind of rivalry is that, right? I mean, any other person could do, and yet for the longest time, Columbus's closest rival had been like Chicago, and then they kind of made this Trillium Cup with Toronto, and then it almost looked like for a moment that when they were finally going to get like a regional rival that would actually make this like an awesome rivalry series. You see what happens with the Cascadia Cup with Portland and Seattle. I mean, they got like 9 or 10 buses that ship fans back and forth for those games. And you just see how awesome those rivalries are. And the MLS is really trying to build on those rivalries. And for Columbus to stay in Columbus as FC Cincinnati comes in, hell is real. That's what the Derby is. Everyone's latching on to that. For those of you that are not sure what that even means, there's a giant billboard off I-71 that says, like hell is real, and like the next billboard's like the 10 Commandments or something like that. And I-71, it's between Cincinnati and Columbus, so that's where that kind of.
Sounds pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, I wish I could see that billboard firsthand.
Well, maybe you gotta drive down to Columbus and then drive down to Cincy.
I'm gonna make the trip.
They're gonna make the trip specifically to see the billboard, which I think you could probably just Google.
This weekend, let's go.
All right.
We might make a stop down in the old Sin City. You never know.
The old Sin City.
Vegas. That's the other Sin City.
No, Sin City with a C, right?
Ohio's Sin City.
Ohio Sin City. Okay, all right. So if you want to go check out that billboard, there you have it. But obviously these two clubs have met one time, and it was in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, and that was at Nippert Stadium. And FC Cincinnati got the 1-0 victory over Columbus Crew.
Great game.
So that was in part with FC Cincinnati's run to the semifinals in that tournament. So it's definitely
off all those saves. It was nuts.
Yes. Mitch Hildebrand, who's he was not here this season, but he left last season. But he was a beast in that game. So there's a lot of buzz, I think, just across the state of Ohio for kind of another Ohio series in a different professional league. So I know I'm excited. It definitely puts me in a peculiar spot because I like both FC Cincinnati and Columbus Crew, and you could always get away with not having to pick one in a match since they were in different leagues. But now that's going to really put me in a tight spot, I think, moving forward. So you got to just cheer for the home team, I guess. That's the age-old adage, right? Maybe. I don't know.
It gives you a little bit, leeway there. When it gets to playoff time, you can always that's what I do with the, Cleveland and Cincinnati there. And usually it was Cincinnati Bengals making it to the playoffs, not the Browns. So at least you got somebody to cheer for.
Right, like go Ohio. Somebody made it. That's great.
Exactly.
And Lee's over there like,
that pain.
Yeah, Lee's like, I don't know that pain. My team's decent.
Poor little Lee.
Boy, oh boy. But the fact of the matter is, I think this is creating a lot of buzz. And like you guys said, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly this team meshes. They did a lot of sort of changes midseason last year when Adi came in, and they put him in the starting lineup after a few games. And it's just my opinion. I feel like that did not mesh well. Ledesma, who was a beast all season long, as soon as Adi got put in the starting lineup, those two just never seemed to be able to really click on the same page. It kind of, in my opinion, messed up FCC's mojo. And that was a club that won the USL's regular season championship, that the Shield. But then they did make it past the first round for the first time. This is the fourth season. That's embarrassing. The fourth season, but it was the first time they got past the first round. They did it on penalties, and then at home they lost to New York Red Bulls 2. So basically, kind of the B team for Red Bulls, 1-0, and that they just looked kind of dysfunctional in that match. So I know for Cincinnati, especially because the Reds haven't won a playoff game since 95, and they won in 1990 is the last time they won a World Series. The Bengals haven't won a World Series ever. This is a city that desperately wants a championship team, and last year looked like it was going to be on pace for that, and then it just kind of came up short. So I know it's going to be more difficult because it's a higher ranked league here, but I don't think the fans are shying away from really believing that this team can compete. But it's definitely going to be interesting. We saw how things can be interesting for new clubs. Obviously, worked for like Houston Dynamo back in the mid 2000s, and it's worked for Atlanta United. But you see Minnesota United kind of off to a sluggish start. Orlando City, who were beasts in the USL. They get to MLS. They haven't made the playoffs yet, I think. I don't think they've made one playoff since they've been in MLS. So it'll be interesting to see how this team does. But they have the local ownership as well. They got a huge fan base behind them, especially with some of those bigger matches. They're getting, like 25,000 people into the stadium, and this is a club that I think a lot of people down here are excited about. And it sounds like you guys are kind of hearing about some of the excitement as well, a little further north in Northwest Ohio.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool to see. Well, you talked about Houston and Atlanta, creating this winning atmosphere, and I think a lot of it for Cincinnati will come down to if they can create that culture.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple years ago they kind of had that, and it was like, oh man, they had motivation, they had a whole lot of symmetry with each other, and it just seemed like they were clicking on all cylinders and had all momentum going for them. And you really hope they can get back to that time where everybody was clicking, but bringing in like all this fresh blood and everybody coming in, and like you said, a lot of turnover. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if they can reel it all in and bring everybody together and create a culture that is a winning culture. And it is something I think they can do, though. I think they have, some good guys in charge. I think they can, make some moves, and hopefully with this, super draft coming up, I'm really hoping they can make some good selections and come out on top.
And the super draft is interesting because not a lot of big names really come from the super draft, but sometimes you don't necessarily need those big names. But it's funny because, they've stacked up like 10 picks in the super draft from just doing some trades with a couple different clubs. And it almost is kind of funny because it almost shows how kind of most clubs are not really that worried about the MLS super draft in this day and age. So they seem to kind of have their free pickings with the super draft here. So we'll see kind of how that all plays out and really kind of see what happens with that. As always, I want to thank you guys for jumping on here, for talking about FC Cincinnati and talking about Columbus Crew earlier. Always stay tuned here as we'll have more set piece pitchcast. I'm going to call it a pitchcast maybe instead of podcast. Set piece pitchcasts that are going to be coming out throughout the leading up to the season. And then we'll try to have kind of more match recaps for both Columbus Crew and for FC Cincinnati during this season. As always, Set Piece will be your one-stop location for all news and the Fanatic fellas talking about FC Cincinnati and Columbus Crew all season long. If you want just the FC Cincinnati scoop, that's going to be on your Winged Lions podcast. That will be on Set Piece. And then your Checkered City podcast will be everything that you need for Columbus Crew. Set Piece is a production of the Ohio Sports Gazette. As always, follow the Ohio Sports Gazette for all information, news, opinions, everything regarding your Ohio teams. It's everything with Ohio sports, professional, collegiate, and high school athletics are tossed in there as well. It's your state, your teams, your Gazette. Visit ohiosportsgazette.com and follow both Set Piece and the Ohio Sports Gazette on the Anchor podcast and all your podcast locations. Once again, thank you for listening in and stay tuned for more information on Set Piece.